fresh out the motherfucking pack.
Right out
But
the
niggas
bag,
don't know
son.
how to act.
Hello, and welcome back to yet another NFL video, man. We're here, bro. We're here. By the way, I gotta get my what the hell is this, bro? Why is it like what do they call it? A widow's peak or something? I don't know. What anyways, we're back, bro. It's September. NFL is upon us. College football is upon us. This is gonna work out perfectly. So this is gonna be September 1st, NFL week one predictions. September 3rd, college football reactions. The first rod poll. Oh, the rod poll's back. Oh man, we're living good, bro. It's football season. Let's get right into it, man. I'm going to go through and predict and give my thoughts and takes on every single NFL Week One game. So let's not hold y'all guys up here. Let's get right into it. But first of all, thank you for watching. Let's proceed. The first game of the season is a banger. AFC Championship game rematch between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are 3-point favorites at home. This makes sense to me in terms of just the money line. I guess I'll talk about I'm not a gambler. I'm not a degenerate, but I'll talk about the money line and shit, I guess, for every game. Let's see. Ravens at Chiefs. Do I think this comes down to which team will be able to adapt their new offseason changes the quickest? The Ravens changed their defensive coordinator. They lost a few pieces. They added guys like Derrick Henry to the offense, and the Chiefs underwent a lot of changes at receiver, especially. Um, the way I see it is the Ravens are going to get the job done in week one. I think their defense is still going to be good enough to slow down the Chiefs' offense, even though they're at home. I don't think the Chiefs are going to come out firing on all cylinders. I mean, hell, they didn't last season, and they still ended up winning the Super Bowl. So I don't really think it matters that much whether or not the Chiefs win, but I think the Ravens are going to be slightly more motivated to go back in there and get their revenge from the AFC Championship game. Great game, by the way. Possibly the best game of the entire week one. Great season opener. Second game, we have the Eagles playing the Packers in fucking Brazil. Who would have thought Brazil, of all places, is going to host Eagles Packers? Philly are 3-point favorites. Okay, I'm not mad. I'm not upset with that. Um, Philly is my pick. They are my pick to win the Super Bowl. Just win the NFC, win the Super Bowl. I love the Eagles roster. I love what they are able to do. With that being said, man, the Packers, let's not sleep on the Packers now. They added Josh Jacobs to replace Aaron Jones. They had an incredibly young offense, which should get better across the board in terms of receiver, tight end. All those guys are going to develop, get better. Jordan Love from his first year as a starter to second year as a starter. The Packers are dangerous, very dangerous. I think the Packers are going to make some noise in the NFC next year. And defensively, they had guys like Xavier McKinney. So I actually have the Packers pulling off the upset. Packers and Ravens pulling off the upsets here in the first two games, and the Packers get the job done. Again, doesn't mean much because I think the Eagles will end up winning it all. But week one, I think the Packers are going to be better situationally than the Eagles. Eagles obviously changing both their coordinators as well. So keep an eye on that. Following that, we have the Steelers traveling to Atlanta to play the new look Falcons. Falcons are 3-point favorites in this one, understandably. Steelers are no slouches. They've made some additions. They got guys like Patrick Queen, Russell Wilson. They drafted the offensive lineman from, I believe, Georgia. No, they didn't draft him. Who'd they draft? Troy Fatano, the tackle. So the Steelers are feeling pretty good. And also, an extra little storyline here. Arthur Smith, former beloved Falcons head coach, is now the Steelers offensive coordinator. He is now returning to Atlanta week one. Do you think he'll get a tribute video? I doubt it. Um, Good game. Two good teams. Both teams, I think, should be playoff teams. The deciding factor here is that the Falcons are at home. Kirk's first game. Don't know how well he'll fare against the Steelers. That's a tough draw. You got to play a Steelers defense in your first game. That's a tough draw right there. But I do think the Falcons are going to get the job done at home. They start the season off 1-0. Maybe their defense, Raheem Morris, maybe they give the Steelers. I think wasn't he the former Steelers defensive coordinator as well? I think his defense is going to give Russell Wilson and company a little bit more trouble than the Steelers defense will give the Falcons offense, if that makes sense. Moving on. First bad game so far. Cardinals at Bills. Yeah, Bills 6-point favorites. Makes sense. The Bills, listen, the Bills got significantly worse this offseason. They lost a lot of long-term pieces that have been there. The Cardinals, they improved. They were in one of my most improved teams videos because they made a lot of moves. They got a lot of players drafted well, I thought, but I do not think they're ready to go into Buffalo week 1 and pull off the upset. I have the Bills winning 27-23 to start the season off where, you know, like I said, don't think they're going to be uh, a contender in the AFC for the near future, but I still think they're good enough to beat the Cardinals at home, if that makes sense. Following, we have a real sleeper matchup here. Titans at Bears. I like this one. Will Levis and company heads up to Chicago to play Caleb Williams in his first game ever. And I'll be honest, the Titans defense, it's not the worst. For your first NFL game, I'm sure there's a lot of teams uh that you would like rather not play than the Titans, if that makes sense. You got guys like Jeffrey Simmons, L'Jarius Sneed. Those guys are no slouches. Harold Landry off the edge certainly could give Caleb some problems. But 4.5 point favorites at home. I'm not sure if I like that. I think that's a little too high. I actually have the Titans getting the job done in the upset. Week 1 on the road. Listen, guys, the Titans made so many moves this offseason. It could backfire because it's tough to build that chemistry in week 1 when you're bringing in so many new guys. However, I just feel like they're a better roster than the Bears at this point in time, especially defensively. But I don't know, man. We'll see. The Bears could win, certainly, but I think the Titans get the upset on the road, and Caleb does not win his first NFL game. After that, the Patriots travel to Cincinnati. Patriots, one of the worst teams in football. Bengals, the biggest favorites that we've seen so far. I don't think that's unfair whatsoever. I think they should beat the Patriots by double digits if we're being realistic here. So I have them winning 27-13. Jacoby Brissett has been named the starter. So I mean, yeah, the Patriots offense is bad. They have 3 young receivers. I think they should just start. I don't know why they got guys like KJ Osborne and they still have Devontae Parker. I don't think they do, but they have like some vet like Kendrick Bourne. Just get rid of these guys, bro. Trade these guys for 4th, 5th, 6th round picks and just let Javon Baker and Jalen Polk and the guy, or I already talked about Javon Baker and Demario Douglas. Just let those 3 guys play, bro. Those are the future anyways. Who cares about how good of a year Kendrick Bourne has? You know what I mean? Like, so, but yeah, the Patriots, they're going to struggle early on. Bengals get their first win of the season, and Bengals, pretty good team, pretty good team. Burrow, Higgins, Jamar Chase, but I think they lost some guys. I think losing guys like Joe Mixon and Tyler Boyd is really going to hurt the Bengals down the stretch next year. You may not feel it immediately, but those are guys who were real big contributors for the Bengals for a long time now. And I don't necessarily think you're going to be able to just move on from that without feeling the repercussions. So I don't think the Bengals are going to be as good, as maybe they've been in the past, but I think they'll still be a very good playoff team in the AFC. Following that, we have the Texans traveling to Indianapolis, play their division rival, the Colts. Texans 2.5 point favorites, even though the Colts are at home. I think that's very fair. I do have the Texans winning. Um, Pretty much, the interesting thing about the Colts is they really didn't make any moves this off. Like I remember when I was doing the grading every team's offseason, the Colts made like no moves. They just re-signed everybody, which leads me to believe they're very confident in the talent they have already. They obviously added through the draft with guys like Leatu Latu and AD Mitchell. By the way, a great first 2 picks. I can't criticize that whatsoever. I like their receiving core. Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, AD Mitchell, Alec Pierce, I think is his name. Like I like their receivers. Um, I like their front 7 defensively. Problem is, AR, he's not proven whatsoever. And if you had to play the Texans, you guys know if you follow this channel, you know how good I think the Texans are. Having to play them week 1, AR, I don't think he's ready to beat them yet. I think the Texans get the job done in dramatic fashion on the road. After this, we got Florida on Florida, violence. Jaguars heading down south a little bit to play Miami. Miami favorites at home, of course. Jaguars, they made some additions, but I think we all agree last season was pretty disappointing. Trevor Lawrence was pretty disappointing. I'm sure Jaguars fans even are not happy with how he's looked so far and just in terms of his development and progression. But the Dolphins, I think they are still seen as not the favorites to win the AFC East, but right up there. They're a pretty good team. I think Jaguars are trying to etch their way into the playoffs, whereas the Dolphins have pretty much been a playoff lock, I guess you could say, the last 2 years. I think that will still be the case this year. I think the Dolphins get the job done at home in 30-point offensive fashion, as we're going to see a lot. A lot of teams are not going to be able to hold the Dolphins to under 30 next season. They have a real explosive offense. After this, pretty trash game right here. Panthers heading to New Orleans in division rivalry. Saints are only 4-point favorites. That's interesting to me. At home against the worst team in the NFL last year, only 4-point favorites. That's kind of concerning. But yeah, listen. The Panthers made their additions. They got guys like Xavier Legette. They added Deontay Johnson. They signed, or they drafted Jonathan Brooks, I should say. The Panthers made improve, especially offensively. They made a lot of offensive improvements. They kind of said fuck the defense, which I like. To be honest with you, I don't care if the Panthers win 3 games next year. As long as Bryce Young looks better, that's all that matters. That's the entire point of the Panthers franchise right now. Because if Bryce doesn't work, they're screwed for the next decade. So the Panthers have made the moves necessary, I think, to make Bryce's life easier, which is all that matters. And I think it will. I think he will take a step forward this year. The Saints, they should be able to run through the Panthers defense like a hot knife through butter. Um, Even though the Saints, I don't think are very good themselves. I think Derek Carr and the offensive line leaves a lot to be desired. With that being said, I still think the Saints are going to get the job done at home, 21-17, and beat the Panthers. I could see an upset there, though. This is probably the worst week one matchup. Sam Darnold and the Vikings travel up to New York to play Daniel Jones and the Giants. Yeah, that shit sucks. But listen, this is an insane money line right here, a favor, whatever you want to call it. The Vikings, favorites on the road against the Giants. Guys, listen, the Giants sucked last year. Daniel Jones isn't good, but the Vikings are the worst team in the league. The Vikings favorites on the road against the Giants. And I shouldn't say the Vikings are the worst team in the league. They have the worst quarterback and defensive combination in the league. 1-point favorites on the road. I think the Giants are going to blow them out. I don't really think this is a close game. Like, don't get me wrong, Daniel Jones is bad. This is going to be the biggest margin of he's just better than the other quarterback he might be has ever seen. I think the Giants are good. Like, they don't have an incompetent coach. I think they're gonna get the job done in week one against Sam Darnold. Their defense isn't bad. I think Darnold will throw multiple picks. I think the Giants. I think the Giants win in convincing fashion in week one at home. After that, the Chargers host the Raiders. Chargers 3.5-point favorites. You know what? You know what's strange? When the Raiders signed Gardner Minshew, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, you know what? I actually am putting a lot of faith in the Raiders this year. I actually think they're going to take a step forward and maybe even win 10 games in this upcoming season. However, the more reports I see about both quarterbacks struggling, O'Connell and Minshew, I'm having less and less faith. I don't know why people, by the way, I don't know why people think the Raiders are a top 10 defense just because they played like that the last month of the season or whatever. I don't think the Raiders are a top 10 defense. I think their secondary leaves a lot to be desired. Um, I think the Chargers are going to get the win at home. I probably wouldn't have predicted this a month ago, but I do think now that the Chargers, um, I mean, I like the moves they made. I think Herbert's job will be a little easier, even though he lost his top 2 receivers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. I still think he will not have a as much of a or as difficult of a job moving the ball as he did last year. I think Chargers are going to look a lot like Michigan did last year. A lot of handoffs, a lot of play action. I think they're going to be able to run the ball pretty effectively, actually. And defensively, I think they're still going to be well. They have players defensively, obviously. I don't know how good they'll look. They should look better, but then to be determined. I think the Chargers beat the Raiders though in week one. Then we have my Seahawks hosting the Broncos, 5.5-point favorites. Maybe even should be more, to be honest with you. Broncos starting Bo Nix, which I like, by the way. I don't hate that pick. I don't hate the fact that he's starting. But Mike McDonald playing against a rookie quarterback at home, the Seahawks just have to win. We just have to win this game. I have us winning 31-20. Bo Nix' first start will not result in a win. I don't know if any rookie quarterback's first start is going to result in a win here in week one. After this, really, really slept on game right here. Cowboys travel to Cleveland to play that staunch defense and Deshaun Watson. Browns favorites on the road here. I'll be honest with you. I don't think the Cowboys are going to be pretty good next year. I see the Cowboys an 8 or 9 win team. to be honest with you. I think they lost too much defensively. I think the fans turned on Dan Quinn. I think, the grass is not greener. They lost a lot of pieces to that defense. The run game is going to be terrible. They're going to struggle to run the ball next year. They lost Tyron Smith. I really think the Cowboys are going to take a big step back. They might fire the coach mid-season if they don't start off too hot, and I think the Browns are going to beat them. I actually think the Browns are going to blow the Cowboys out in week one. I think CD holding out for so long. I think the Browns defense is going to smother the Cowboys. This might be the most funny and embarrassing week one game for the Cowboys, that is. Then we have the Buccaneers hosting the Commanders. Apologies for using the Redskins helmet. Buccaneers, man, their offense is dangerous. Their offense is really, 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 really dangerous. I know Dan Quinn's the new head coach in DC. The defense got better. He made some additions there, but the Buccaneers, that's a tough offense to play in Tampa week one. Jaden Daniels' first game as a starter. I think he'll have the best game maybe of any week one quarterback, but I don't think he will win. Buccaneers, I think, get the job done at home. I think they put on an offensive showcase, and they kind of shut Baker. By the way, listen, dark horse MVP, Baker Mayfield. Book it now. That offense is dangerous. Then we have another stunning week one game. Rams at Lions, a divisional round rematch, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe a wild card rematch, actually. Lions 3.5-point favorites. The Rams are a good team, bro. Both these teams should win over 10 games. Don't know who'll win. I don't know who's going to win. I'm going to go with the Lions by one. Oh, I actually have the shit wrong. 27-28 Lions win. It's tough, bro. Both these teams are good. I love both offenses. I think the Rams defensively, even without Aaron Donald, I have them a little bit higher than the Lions. They made two additions. People don't talk about it. The Rams got Darius Williams and Tre'Davious White in their cornerback room. Those are two proven guys right there. I don't know, man. It's close. It really is close. I like both these teams, but I think the Lions at home, that's what does it for me. If it was in LA, I'd pick the Rams. If it was in LA, I'd pick the Rams, but the Lions at home, I think they get the job done week one. Then the final game, beautiful cinema, absolute cinema on Monday Night Football. The Niners host the Jets. Listen, guys, Aaron Rodgers coming back off some ayahuasca and Achilles rehab. You do not want to play the Niners. You do not want to play the Niners defense in week one. Yeah, I got the Niners winning. I think it'll be a slug. Both great defenses, by the way. Amazing defense. Robert Saleh returns to San Fran. A low scoring game for sure, I think. But I just think the Niners, they close it out in brutal fashion. I think Aaron's going to get beat up a little bit, to be honest with you, in week one. I think the Niners pull it off in a great primetime Monday night game. That's a pretty good week one, man. There were a lot of interesting games there. I think Lions, Rams, Niners, Jets, Ravens, Chiefs, Falcons, Steelers, like Browns, Cowboys. There were some good games in there, some really good games in there. So football's back, bro. NFL's back, college football's back. I couldn't be happier, bro. So leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.
He's out the motherfucking back. Right out to niggas don't know how to act.